1 year ago, we launched the National Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour.
Our basic message: you think you're woke, but you're sleepwalking through a nightmare. The system cannot be reformed, it must be overthrown. We need an actual revolution. And we did a lot.
It's time! It's time!
Most important, we did not bring to people a bunch of feel-good hype and delusion and self-delusion. We brought people Bob Avakian.
I'm a leader named Bob Avakian. This is someone who's actually drafted how we can go forward to emancipate all humanity.
And a real way out. Revolution, nothing less, based on the new communism that Bob Avakian has developed. The only way that humanity can get free.
But we haven't yet broken through. And every day, the need for this revolution cries out greater. And the truth still remains.
We have two choices. Either live with all this and condemn future generations to the same, or worse, if they have a future at all, or make revolution.
So we are launching a new phase of this National Revolution tour with bold plans to break through and organizing the forces around this revolution. And we will not back off until we have done that.
So join us in going to work on making this real. Tune in on Wednesday and invite others to tune in. You can get organized with this in real life and online. Donate to spread this revolution and donate to get this tour on the road. Be a part of the networks nationwide getting organized for an actual revolution.
Facebook. I want to welcome you all to the live stream announcing the next phase of the National Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour. My name is Noche Diaz. We're coming at you live from New York City.
And I'm Luan Soko. I'm with the National Revolution Tour.
So we're very excited. We've got a whole lot in store for you guys. Oh, wow. Okay. So, as we said, this is a live stream to raise funds to begin the next phase of the National Revolution tour. We're starting off, I hear right now, we're at 5,127. By the end of this live stream, we plan to break 10,000, okay? And you're going to be part of making that happen. Now, look, we've got a lot in store for you with this program. We've got about an hour together. We're going to let you in on some of, our excitements and what we're looking forward to and why we're doing this, okay? Because we set out about a year ago, as you heard, to really make breakthroughs in building this movement for revolution, because there is another way the world can be, and we do not have to accept the way things are and go on with a world of hopelessness and despair. We have the science, the strategy, and the leadership that Bob Avakian has been providing to actually break through and fight for a future for humanity that is worth living in. But it is up to us to make that real. And that's part of what we've set out to do with this National Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour. We have big plans, bold plans to break through. We're going back to LA in about 10 days. Only if you are part of raising the funds to get people down there. We're going to talk a little bit more about, what's involved in that and why it makes a difference for people to be down there. But this is part of what's needed very urgently, very immediately to actually get people down there. So we really need you to, go to revcom.us, if you're on PayPal, to make the contributions. There's a phone number, 646-717-7161. You can call to, make your pledge and to find out further instructions. There's a Venmo at, the Venmo is at Revolution Tour. There you go. So if you have Venmo, that's how you can contribute. And, if you call that number too, you can get more instructions. There's about how to send cash or checks, and there's an email, getorganizedforrevolutiontour@gmail.com.
Yeah, so I think that's really good. I want to, clue people in and remember that everything that we're doing today is a part of how it is that we're actually making this impact in the world. We started very initially last year, and we're out to change everything. You know, we're out to put this revolution on the map, putting BA out there. The title of the tour itself, for many of you who know this and for you all who don't know, the full title is You Think You're Woke, but You're Sleepwalking Through a Nightmare. This system cannot be reformed. It must be overthrown. And there was a lot that we learned when we put that on the map, when we challenged these different frameworks or different things that people are caught up in, thinking that this is the only way that the world can be. And that inspired a lot of people. And we want to go back and not just raise people's hopes, but actually organize people to make that different world possible. So we want to actually get into some things today. There's some new plans that we actually have for one, going out into the world. There's a video that we want to show later that's from an interview with people who are down in LA right now. There's some thoughts and ideas that we have about a whole overall web presence, which is a lot different from how we've been approaching things before. And we want to bring you into that process as well. So yeah, just before we dive in, I do want to let people know, to start us off, we have a $1,000 matching donation. This means somebody has contributed $1,000 that is going to be contributed as you meet that $1,000. So every dollar you contribute now is doubled, okay? And the next $1,000 that we raise is going to be counted as twice, because someone has actually set forward, I will contribute $1,000 if other people step up and join me in contributing to this revolution tour and reach that $1,000 goal. So that'll take us over, beyond our 5,000 starting point. And as we go along, we'll keep you updated in terms of where we are, how close we get to this 10,000 goal, which itself is just the beginning. And we're going to get into what we need to start with this $10,000, but there's a lot more that needs to be raised and a lot more that needs to be done. We're going to be getting into that. But to dive a little bit more into why it is that we have set out on this National Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour, we want to begin by playing a clip from Bob Avakian's speech, why we need an actual revolution and how we could really make revolution. So why don't we go ahead and cue this up. Let's see, we got this going. All right.
By 1968 and for several years after, there were large numbers of people in this country, including millions of youth from the middle class, as well as masses of poor and oppressed people, who were motivated by a thoroughly justified hatred of this system and aspirations for a radically different and better world. And this reached deeply into the system's own armed forces. Even if the understanding of most was marked by revolutionary sentiment, which, while righteous, was lacking in any deep and consistent scientific basis. And the real failure of that time was that there was not yet a revolutionary vanguard with that scientific foundation and method, and the orientation, strategy, and program that could give organized expression to the mass revolutionary sentiment and lead a real attempt at actually making revolution. That is a challenge before us now. And now, particularly because the work that I have done and the leadership I have been providing over the decades since the 1960s, we do have the further development of the scientific method and approach to revolution with the new communism. We have the strategic approach and plan for making this revolution. We have the Constitution for the new socialist republic in North America, a sweeping vision and concrete blueprint for a radically new and emancipating society aiming for the emancipation of humanity as a whole. But let's be straight up. What we do not have yet are masses of people who are won to revolution and driven to work for it, especially youth who are always the driving force of any revolution. And although we have the foundation and scaffolding of revolutionary organization that could be built on and expanded into a vanguard force capable of actually leading the revolution all the way through, we do not yet have the necessary cadre of leadership on all levels and in all parts of the country who have not only the determination, but also the scientific grounding to lead the masses who must be brought forward in making revolution. While some of us who came forward during the 1960s have retained, indeed deepened, our revolutionary passion and the scientific grounding that sustains it, many others have given up on revolution. And although there are literally tens of millions in this country who hate the injustices and indignities that people suffer under this system, and who can be awakened to the possibility of a radically different and better world, as yet far too few have been brought forward into the ranks of the revolution and developed and trained as revolutionary leaders. This is what all those who cannot stand to live another day under this monstrosity of a system and are filled with passionate intensity to bring this system down and bring a radically different world into being, this is what we all need to be actively working toward. Building up the ranks of the revolution, first in the thousands, and then as things develop toward the decisive point, millions, as an organized force, and learning to become leaders of this revolution who can enable those millions to be in a position to fight all out with a real chance to win when the time comes. This is not a revolution for revenge. The goal is not for exploited and oppressed humanity to have a chance to become exploiters and oppressors themselves. It is a communist revolution whose goal is nothing less than putting an end to all relations of exploitation and oppression, and all the degradation and destruction bound up with this throughout the world.
All right. Well, there's a lot to get in there. It's a very good start for us to begin diving in on what we're doing with this tour. I do want you all to know we're going to keep you posted on where we're at in fundraising. I just got a note that there are people watching in Boston who have contributed $500 towards the $1,000 matching donation. So we're halfway there already. But you know, we got a ways to go to get that to that 1,000, and we have to go beyond that to reach the 10,000 for tonight. But it's very exciting. I want to give a shout out to the folks out there in Boston who are watching and who are doing this. Shout out to the audience here in the studio. And everybody who's part of working to make this happen. But Luan, you know, look, we just heard this clip from Bob Avakian, which is the end of the first part of this speech on why we need an actual revolution and how we can really make revolution. And it really provides a way for us to get into some of what we wanted to talk about with people about this tour. And maybe you could start us off and share some of your reflections about what this clip has to do with what we've set out to do with this Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, well, one, you hear like how even starts kind of talking about the situation that was going on in the world, and you look at how things are today. You know, where are the youth at? Where are people's heads at? You know, a lot of people have a lot of, hopelessness about like what's happening in the world. And, I just kind of am reminded of, when we actually did go out there in LA starting the tour last year, going to UCLA, going to some of these different places, and really, one, like calling on people, look, the world doesn't actually have to be this way. And this was met with all kinds of different things, Some people, some people were, not, weren't, of course people weren't like convinced off of first hearing that, right? But then you have to go out there and challenge them. Well, look at the world, look at what's actually been brought forward by this leader. And I wanna say, like, you think about, like, we had this week where we brought out the points of attention, going all over in different places, and people, real aspirations were lifted, off of looking at and seeing that there's a force that's actually fighting for this today. That was something that, brought a lot of not only hope to people, but actually made people want to be a part of something different. And you could see that in some of the pictures of people marching together. That came through and came together off of people actually being challenged. Look, what kind of world do you want to fight for? What kind of world do you want to live in? And, some of this, I don't want to get into every little example.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting you're talking, and I'm thinking of a whole bunch of questions, too, to help people, like we do a lot, are going through a whole, almost a year of work that we've been doing. And I know I'll say just, real quickly, when you hear that clip, this was given in the summer before we launched the tour, right? Yeah. Where he gives a speech that starts off very powerfully looking at the world that we live in. Why is there the ongoing white supremacy and genocidal persecution of black people and other people of color? Why is there the patriarchal domination of women and gender oppression? Why are there wars for empire? Why is there the demonization of immigrants and the militarization of the border? Why is this system, capitalism, imperialism, destroying the earth? And he walks through a very deep, passionate, but also scientific, assessment of why we're in this situation, what it has to do with the system we live under, why we need a revolution. And then he ends with, look, this is what we have that people have not had before because of the work he's been doing, okay? But we do not have what we need to make the revolution that humanity needs. And he puts forward, what we need to go to work on. All of us who want to see a whole different world. But he also situates it for us too. It's not just, hey, we don't have these things, man, how do we get it? I was listening to it again and preparing for this, and, there's this part where he says, when he's walking through the, what we have and don't have, where he says, although there are literally tens of millions in this country who hate the injustices and indignities that people suffer under this system and who can be awakened to the possibility of a radically different and better world, as yet, far too few, have been brought forward into the ranks of the revolution and developed and trained as revolutionary leaders. In other words, we're not just going out there to avoid spreading the good word to people who won't listen. There are millions of people who care deeply about the way the world is. And right now, they're caught up in a lot of ways of thinking that just keep them from getting to even asking the questions about why we're in this situation and what can be done about it. Mm-hmm. And this gets to what you were starting off with, and I'd like you to see if you can maybe walk us through it a little bit. You mentioned going on to the campuses in LA where we started the tour, right? And in LA, and then some of the work that was done on places like UCLA. Why don't you give us a sense? I don't know if everybody knows what it's like for a bunch of UCLA students, to encounter some revolutionaries, and how did we step and roll, and what was, how are we trying to work on this in a different way when we started out this tour? Maybe you can walk us through, and we can talk a little bit together about really what is it that we were aiming for and setting out to do, and what did it actually look like to set about doing that?
Well, I guess I would say, it was, we went out onto a campus where, right now, overall, at most campuses, you don't have a very vibrant, student body that's going to be acting when things are changing and all of that. And so we went on this scene, and this was something that was very different. At first, you had a situation where people would sort of, some people recognized the shirt, some people didn't really recognize it. And I remember we went out there in the midst of right after there was a basically putting out this challenge around identity politics, and this was sort of our beginning intro into actually going at some of these different things. I mean, the challenge that we put out there, the basics of it was that you think you're woke but you're sleepwalking through a nightmare. The system can't be reformed, it must be overthrown. And we went out there and put that challenge to people, and as we started to see people's different responses, something that we did learn is that something that a lot of people are still caught up in is a lot of this American chauvinism. So a big thing that we did was actually go out onto the campus, put a flag on the ground, and start challenging people. Look, you think you're about the people of the world. Look at what this country is doing to people all over the world, and saying, look, we need an actual revolution. And this is a part of actually how we were challenging people to look at what this country is doing, its actual role in the world, but also challenging people to raise their sights to something different and looking at something different. And this was a part of a build-up to a program that we had with the title of the tour. And in building up for that program, we actually put these provocations all over the place. We had one that was on this is going to hit a lot of people, especially since the elections and the BEB and all this is starting, or BEB being bourgeois electoral bullshit. Anyway, but we had one that said, is this Bernie Sanders' favorite Bob Dylan quote? And it said, "We looted and plundered on distant shores. Why isn't my share as big as yours?" And this was something that people are like, what is this? Asking what's the question? What is it that these people are trying to do here? And we didn't just put these up just to stir things up. We put it up to put a challenge to people and actually draw people to hear, well, what is the alternative that we're bringing forward? Why is it that we're saying this isn't the best way that things could be? And we had a program that actually kind of brought all this together. There are a lot of people who actually showed up from that campus and also from other campuses as well who had heard about it. And this is where people actually kind of got a beginning, introduction of what it is that this tour is about, who is Baba Vakian, and how it is that they could actually throw in and be a part of the movement for revolution. And, it was, I will say that, this putting the challenge to people of actually soberly looking at the world and putting those two choices to people was something that, the two choices being, either we're going to live with all this and condemn future generations to the same or worse if they have a future at all, or make revolution. Putting that to people, and having people soberly confront that was actually really meaningful and meant a lot. And, people did answer that challenge, in different ways. And I don't want to go on and on. I actually want to see, some more of, what it is that you actually thought about the clip, because you had some your own thinking that you were bringing out.
Well, I shared a little bit of it earlier, and I did feel like it was very much to the point of some of the experiences that you were sharing, because I want people to appreciate how different this was. Okay, that people stepped out there, and we didn't go to the, this example of the campus, but this was also characteristic of a lot of things that we were, aiming to do, is we didn't go out there and tell people what they already wanted to hear and get them, on that basis to come check out the revolution and all that. We went out, we all know that people, even those who care, are caught up in a lot of ways of thinking and dead-end paths that lead nowhere and that keep things going the way they are. They do not know about, and they don't want to hear about actual revolution, Baba Vakian and the new communism, because they're so caught up in this. We would get nowhere if we didn't actually shake people out of that. And so when you talked about going out there with, you said it, very matter-of-factly, but this is what we went out. You think you're woke, but you're sleepwalking through a nightmare, and that upset and rustled some feathers, and it got. But here's the thing: it wasn't like we just love and spoil for fights, ideologically. But the point is, it shook people out of their routine of how they think about things and got people talking about things that actually matter and what is real and how do we do something about the state of the world and what answers actually answer and measure up against what this reality is. And if you're doing that, then you have to go through what the work of Vakian has done. You have to be working on some of the problems he outlines in this clip that we showed, but also in this whole speech. But this was sort of a very revolutionary new thing. We weren't, this wasn't even first nature for all of us who set out on this tour. It's something that we had to sort of, get ourselves out of some old ruts of how things are done that keep things going and never contribute to getting to revolution. And I want people, watching this, hear some of this to have an appreciation of what it meant to have these people who were basing themselves on the work of Avakian and going out and fighting like hell for that, and not just the ones and twos, but a critical mass of people coming together in this tour. A cohort of people who are training themselves as revolutionary leaders and going out to fight for this and having an impact that you just can't have, even if you're one person on a campus trying to, do some good work. But that this tour was able to bust open this kind of debate about reform and revolution, about what's real. And it wasn't just the campus. We were talking about several things earlier. I mean, including one of the things that happened early on. And we can as we go along, reference a few more things. There's other things we do want to get to, and I do want to give people an update on where we are in terms of raising the funds. Okay, so we started off today at $5,127. Okay, you heard about the matching. Thank you. You heard about the matching 1,000 that we were starting off with, and we are currently have met the first $1,000 match, and I think a little bit more. So where we are right now, this is very exciting. Okay, so where we are right now is 7,127. Okay, so we have, that's 2,873 to go, if I got my maths correct. In order to meet our $10,000 goal this evening. And actually, I think this would be a good opportunity. We have a few statements coming in. Let's see. I'm gonna start with this one that we got a little bit earlier today, which is from someone who actually put up the initial. This is the person that put up the initial matching grant of $1,000 to start us off. And this is a physicist who actually encountered and worked with the tour in LA while it was on its first leg. And I want to share parts of a letter this person wrote. I'm not going to be able to read the whole thing, but I want to give you guys a taste, because this is I was moved, I have to say. This person says, I am making this $1,000 matching fund challenge for the coming tour, a critical phase in the organizing for an actual revolution. So how did a scientist choose to support this tour from amidst the myriad organizations out there dedicated to ending the atrocity that is the present state of the world? I came out of the university in the middle of the Vietnam War, ignorant of the state of the world, having spent all of my time studying physics. And I realized that individuals have a duty to find out what is going on and how they can be responsible citizens of the world. And to my horror, I discovered the endless menagerie of useless wars of mass slaughter infesting the world, the environmental catastrophes emerging everywhere, the global nuclear war continually threatening human extinction, and the infestations of crime and corruption epidemics. The brutality against women and minorities are unstoppable, the rise of fascism, and on and on. And the letter, at length, actually, he walks through a lot of what he tried to do in his personal life to contribute to ending some of this in his professional pursuits by engaging different philosophies and political trends and measuring them up against what's needed and how they fell short. And he expresses his appreciation of learning about the Revolutionary Communist Party and its leader, Bob Avakian, who has broken out of the old ossified theories. This is his words again. Old ossified theories. And he's updated communism, studied the history of the socialist experience, and to see what worked and what didn't, and used this to formulate a new path to a socialist society more likely to bring about a revolution and then not allow it to be diverted from the path, and to ultimately go to a society of world communism to end the horrors and coming catastrophes of the present world that I and all other aware people are looking for a path to end. This is why I am donating all of my charitable contributions to the Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour. It requires lots of money for food, shelter, transportation, bail, materials, and so on for full-time revolutionaries, revolution clubs, and supporters. The world is diving into catastrophe rapidly. There is not enough time left to wait until everyone goes through what I went through, a lifetime of inadequate pathways. Because of this tour, we may be able to save humanity in time. So this is an example of the kind of hope that gets opened up for people, by this tour. And we do have to get to, why we are launching this next phase and some of our plans and how we see on breaking through. Because as exciting as and important as it was, we did not make the breakthroughs that were needed. And we began talking some about the campuses. I do want to give people a sense. That wasn't where we spent all of our time in LA, or and we actually moved from there to Chicago. But even in LA, there was the really heartrending murder of Nipsey Hussle that deeply affected people on the bottom of society in LA, but throughout the country. And we were in the mix of that, really looking at this situation that millions of youth are trapped in this country, okay? In this so-called greatest of all possible worlds, where even someone like Nipsey Hussle, who came out of the South Central LA and tried to model a road of getting out of that through personal success and all that, and tried to point people to the trap that this system puts them in of fighting and killing each other. Even someone like that cannot escape this by trying to personally get out of it. Okay, and we went out there and frankly we had to tell people, look, we have to get out of this shit that this system keeps us locked in, of fighting each other, killing each other off the way they want us to, and we have to start living and fighting for something that could actually get us free from all this. And it was tough. Okay, people are so locked in the way things are and not being able to see beyond the conflicts of today. We showed this film in both parts in that neighborhood where he was killed. Put this before numbers of people, but we have to say it was not to the extent that was needed either in that neighborhood or in that work or throughout the tour, where we did a lot of introducing people to Bob Avakian and the ideas that he's putting forward, but we didn't really give people what they needed to be able to sustain their aspirations for a different world with some substance and science. Because you have to actually become a follower of Bob Avakian if growing numbers of people if that hope is going to become a material force. Okay, people can't just know about the ideas. People can't just check it out and relate to it. There have to be people who, if you go back to that clip where he's outlining some of the things we need to go to work on, how are we going to get there if there's not more people going to work on the same problems and taking up the method and approach, the science that we have to actually change this? People, time and time again, even in that neighborhood, stepped into the revolution, were inspired other people, and began to show a little bit of a taste of what could be a different dynamic where people are beginning to step in and inspire other people to step out of the routine and grow the forces for revolution, which become a greater source of inspiration. But the fact is, a lot of the people who were even part of that didn't even have a sense of what they were part of. Okay? This time around, we have plans, and why we're going back to LA involves the fact that we are actually committed to sticking through, breaking through this dynamic, getting these cores of people into the revolution who themselves are becoming conscious and active followers of Bob Avakian, working on those problems together, having that impact, and not just having that impact, but understanding that that's what we're doing. That's how we get from where we are, weak to strong. That's how we get from a situation where nobody knows about this revolution or an actual pathway forward out of all this. How do we get to that, to everyone having to relate to it and say, oh, who are those people? And then when they say that, they can't just hear, I don't know. they have to come to find out, They have to come to find out what it is that gives us not just the courage in a moral sense, although we have that, but also the backbone based on a scientifically grounded sense of what could come out of all this if we struggled for it. So I wanted to share some of that, experience. We did go, to other places, to Chicago, where we had, similar experiences, going to people who have the hardest life, and we had to struggle amongst ourselves. I don't know if you maybe want to remember some of this together. There's two things, I guess, in Chicago that I do want the audience to be able to have a sense of, and one is, first of all, in Chicago, we did this spectacular thing called some of us called it a science camp, some of us called it the Revolution School, where we got people from around the country together to go to work on deepening our understanding of the science of revolution and communism, getting into the work of Bob Avakian. And I have to say, the only way that was possible was because people like you donated to this tour to make it happen. Okay, how we were able to bring all these people together for this class, for this whole period of time, to be able to train themselves as revolutionary leaders and have the kind of impact which we're about to share with you, was because people like you donated. Okay, and we're going to have to be able to do that again, bigger and differently. Okay, and when we're in LA this time around, and starting in March, we want to have more classes like this or schools like this, however we're going to call them. But to do that, we're going to need the funds to be able to bring people together from around the country to be able to do that. Okay, we're not going to be able to break our way out of this if we're not able to concentrate forces of people who are willing to fight for this to have a bigger impact than you can have isolated and separated, and where people can have the opportunity to be in that kind of a situation where they can themselves deepen their understanding and their ability to become revolutionary leaders on the basis of this new communism and the strategy that Avakian has developed and is challenging us all to be part of going to work on. So with that, again, go call that number, 646-717-7161. Okay, figure out how to make your donation. Go to revcom.us to make your donation on PayPal. We actually have another 1,000 matching donation that we're calling on people to be part of. Again, I announced earlier we're at 7,127. Okay, we have another person who has pledged $1,000 if you raise $1,000. So everything you give now is doubled again. So we're on our way to this 10,000 goal, but you have to give, okay? And think about the effect that you've started to have a taste of the kind of hope that this brings to people who do not allow themselves to hope. Whether or not that is made good on is up to you. Whether or not the people who are going to go out there to LA in 10 days to fight for this can actually have something to get started with and to launch into the stratosphere with is up to what you give now and what we're able to raise tonight and beyond tonight to actually make this happen. So with that, I do want to say, actually, we do have, speaking of schools, we have a statement here too from someone else who's become a donor to the National Revolution Tour. That go ahead.
We have a statement from a student, from a young student who's someone who has met the tour, is someone who supports this movement for revolution, and she's putting out a challenge to other people. So this is the statement that she's putting out, and she's putting out a challenge to other students to sustain this tour by donating $5 monthly like she is. So she says, I'm supporting the Revolution Tour by donating monthly as a college student because it's beyond time that we organize for a revolution. There are people that have not heard of the Revolution Club and therefore rely on this useless system, and that is sad. Knowing about the Revolution Club will bring happiness because more people would be aware that there is a group that is fighting for a new world, a group that is fighting to let go of this fascist system. The system is built on slavery, genocide, and war, and it's sad that this is the system that we live by. If this is the best country, no wonder our world is failing. It cannot be reformed, it must be overthrown. Please join in and donate to the Revolution Tour as we fight for a world without borders and without fascism.
I'm sorry, but we have more updates on money we're being raised. Sorry, it was a joke. This is very exciting, and I want to be able to share some of these updates with you. First of all, I want to share someone who's made that $1,000 matching pledge. Also sent us a statement from San Francisco. Shout out to San Francisco. So this is from their letter. We live in a time of unprecedented challenges to humanity. Never before has the continued existence of civilization across the planet been so clearly threatened. The system which has brought us here seems invulnerable, even as its existence is leading humankind down a deadly path. I, like millions of others, see and feel the danger, hate the corruption and immorality, and sense the depraved lie that this is the best of all possible worlds. It is especially in this moment that there is a need for a bold challenge to capitalism, imperialism, one that embraces the potential for a different kind of society and can draw on the pent-up anger of millions of people, those most viciously preyed upon and those who themselves are not among those most oppressed, but who despise the uncountable injustices. It is for this reason that I support the work of the Revolution Club and the Revolution Tour, and will contribute $1,000 to its continued work of loudly and publicly telling the truth, bravely calling on people to resist, while helping people recognize the potential through revolutionary change to create something better for humanity. There really are two fundamentally opposed futures, and only one leads to a world worth living in. Those who see the road we're going down is deadly, but are not sure how the best way forward Those who see the road we're going down is deadly, but are not sure about the best way forward, should support the tour and join the conversation, the debate over how to best move forward, learn and contribute, because clarity will not come without struggle. And just a quick update, we're at $320 of that $1,000 matching donation. So that means we have $680 to go to meet that $1,000 matching donation that is out on the table right now. Donate. Go to revcom.us. Call that number. Go to Venmo. Find out, go through your couches and find the coins, and then think about how you actually need to give more than that, and go through your wallet and find out how much you can give, and then double that. Find out how much you can raise from your friends. Okay? If you're watching this on Facebook, hit that share button. Tag those people who always talk about the way the world is, but have no real answer for how to understand why and what's the way forward out of this. Tag your friends who are talking endlessly about how we have to get behind one or another of these politicians who are running for office because they don't see any other way to go up against the horrors of this world, and they're looking for some way to do something, but have no sense that there's actually a way to do what can matter, what can make a huge difference for humanity. Tag them, share this post, let them know there's a way that they can be part now of carving out a different future for humanity by contributing to and becoming part of this revolution through donating to the National Revolution Tour. And just a sentence from someone who gave $100 towards this $1,000 match, saying, "Humanity needs this tour for an actual revolution, and I'm also going to pledge an additional $1,000, which I will be giving in the next 10 days. Excuse me. So inspiring! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! So this just came in again for people who were part of contributing to meeting that $1,000 match. So maybe we could just say a couple things. I was beginning to let people know about this class and that we did in Chicago. Maybe you could just help help give people a sense of why that mattered and what difference that made and some of the things we learned from that.
Yeah, so we went. So like people have heard, there are people who came from all over the country to be a part of the Revolution School, or the Science Camp, as some of us called it, in Chicago, which brought forward people who are new to the movement for revolution. Some people who we met in LA itself when we had first started the tour, and who had actually joined in and got off work, whatever, to be there for a week and actually learn about this deeper together. And also, as they're learning about it, impacting society. And something happened right when we were in the middle of all this. I think it was day 2 of the science camp. We heard about how, one of these white supremacists unleashed by what Trump and these fascists have brought forward shot up 22 Latino people in a Walmart. And all of us were thinking about, what the hell is actually going on? What's going on? What's happening with this? And Like in the middle of this, we had to change our plans. We talked about, well, like going into some of the scientific work brought out by Avakian. We looked at basics 330. So if people want to look at that online, they can go to revcom.us to get their copy of basics and check that out as well. And we are looking at, well, how do we actually lead people to go up against this? And if you look behind us, there's a picture. I don't know if you can see it. There's a picture where you see a banner. It says, El Paso, we stand with immigrants. Trump is a fascist revolution, nothing less. You know, we led people to go to Lakeshore Drive, which is, people who have never been to Chicago, this is like a main vein of Chicago, and shut it down. You know, and people joined us along the way. People came forward. And this was something that was on the front of the news for a while. And, you know, some people told us, like, look, we had no idea the impact that we actually had even there. So this is one thing that actually came out of this. And people were changed in this, you know, at the science camp itself. People who, you know, hadn't really spoken up, hadn't really been out loud before, you know, found their grounding, found their voice, you know, through this process. And, you know, I don't want to go on and on about it. And, you know, we want to share some more about some other things as well as the plan. So I guess I'm going to stop there.
And just people should know, there were thousands of people on Lakeshore Drive who were impacted by that. And then many thousands and tens of thousands more who saw it in different ways and asked that question, who are these people? But we have to say, it's very difficult right now for people to get the answer to that question and to find out how to connect up, to get their hands on basics and to be part of training themselves as revolutionaries. And this is part of why we need to be raising not just the 10,000 today, but we need to raise 50,000 by the end of March, because one of the things we need to do very immediately is totally transform our web presence. We're going to say a little bit more about that later, but understand this next leg of the tour is not just we're going to run harder and be stronger on the ground. We are, but that has to get connected up with the whole way in which we're able to organize people, influence people, and impact people throughout the web as they're checking this out. How do they find the revolutionary forces and its leadership and Bob Avakian and get connected themselves and what they need to be getting going? But okay, that is going to be happening in relationship to what we do on the ground, starting off in LA. And right now, I do want to let you guys know. Earlier this week, we had an opportunity to speak with some of the people out in LA who are getting ready for us to come down there, and you know, we got to film a Skype interview that we did with them that we want to share with you all now.
And in particular, here in Los Angeles, there actually has been like a whole way in which in a high school there has been, you know, fights between Black and Latino people, right? And Latino people actually going really after like the small percentage of Black people that are in this high school, and that has actually like brought a lot of these questions to the surface, you know. And at the same time, here in Los Angeles, there is a significant gang truce that's happening, where, you know, these two major gangs, one Latino and one Black, in the streets of South Central, that has caused bloodshed for so many fucking years, that now are actually coming together, you know, putting that shit to the side and, you know, trying to stop, you know, killing each other. And where we have heard a lot of response where people, something very simple and significant, like I can walk to the burger shop, you know, a few blocks from here, get a burger and not feel like I'm going to get killed for doing that, you know. And so there's, you know, it's a very intense time, and it's a very, you know, at the same time as there is a lot of hopelessness, you know, from a lot of people that don't actually see, that are agonizing over these questions and also don't see an alternative. And, you know, and the fact that the Revolution Tour is coming here to Los Angeles in this time and really fighting to make a breakthrough, you know, putting forward the leadership of Bob Avakian, a real way out of this, and fighting to organize people into this revolution and bringing hope on a scientific basis, you know. And we have seen some really beginning, you know, ways that people are, you know, excited about the tour coming and wanting to know more. But
well, briefly, I mean, the tour's been here before, and a lot of people, their hopes were raised, and their question is, where are you guys? We want to see you. Where have you been? And it's so important that we actually be able to have the forces out there to have a consistent presence. because when you raise people's hopes, you got to do something with that. You have to go forward. And so it's so important. And right now, a lot of people in LA, as alongside all across the country, a lot of students, a lot of youth who care about the climate, who care about the environment, that care about the oppression of women, all these questions, right now they're getting really sucked into the elections, and they don't understand, and frankly, they don't want to look at whether or not that's really going to deal with this. So this actually, we got to have a force out here in LA that's fighting to get these students out of that and into the revolution, very crucially.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a different way that the world can be, we happen to be coming on the day of International Women's Day. So I think it'd be good now if we could hear some about that. What are some of the plans, and what's some of the conception? Maybe it'd be good if Chantel, if you could start us off, and
I know. So like the tour is coming to LA, and we're going to be launching that on International Women's Day. We're going to be planting this pole, of like unleashing the fury of women, half of humanity as a force for actually making revolution. And we're starting now in LA to bring people forward on the basis of we have this leadership, we have this irreformability, like this isn't going away, and it's getting worse under fascism. It's getting worse under these attacks on, these abortion bans. People aren't seeing any hope. They're still clinging to, we need to put someone in the Senate to, maybe, they can stop these abortion bans from happening. We need to, when there's this whole, fascist momentum, and it's not going to be solved within this system. And people need to be confronted with this. But we're going to have a defiant march and a joyful celebration at the end. That's what we're bringing to the table. We're still digging into these details, but we're involving all forces. We're going out to all sections of society, stepping forward with VA, with Another World is Possible, and we can use the fury of women as a force for revolution. And going to UCLA, going to South Central, going to these different social forces here in Los Angeles, where there's this huge, this concentration of different artists, different influencers, different, tons of people that, stepping forward with this, it doesn't have to be this way, and really wrangling with them to come into this and march with us on that basis of revolution. This isn't just another women's march. That's not what this is. This is actually, we're not going to take this anymore, and there's another way.
Yeah, and so we're going to have a march, in this neighborhood that I've been speaking about, MacArthur Park, that is, again, a concentration of, Central American, community, marching through a defiant march, and then ending the night with a celebration, right, a cultural celebration. And the way that we're actually stepping out to all these people that Chantel was talking about is putting forward VA and the breakthroughs that he's actually, made on this question, right? In this moment, there is nobody like there's nobody like this person that is actually talking about this question in a way that's not just, hey, let's emancipate women, but actually emancipating women as a whole, as a way of emancipating all of humanity, right? And so we're bringing that to people. We're gonna have a very beautiful restaurant that has opened their doors to have us, have the celebration in that community, and bring others to meet the tour and to hear, be a part of making this tour happen.
Did you want to say something, Alice?
What I want to say is we're very excited to have this tour and to put everything we got into making sure that this can happen, that we can have real impact with real revolution and bring forward followers of BA. And if you're excited about that too, help come in and be a part of making this happen, because there's a lot of people who are stepping into this, and you need to as well.
Yeah, I feel you, brother. I'm really excited myself for launching this next phase and being out there in LA, and including starting it off with International Women's Day, you know, not only has BA done all this tremendous work, but he's leading a revolution that takes us as a cornerstone of what we're not only fighting against, but the kind of world we're fighting for, where all these forms of oppression are ended, including where the half of humanity born female can lift up their heads as full, equal human beings. And people don't even see how ugly it is to live in this world when that real alternative is not alive, breathing, and the leadership that Avakian has been providing. If that gets connected up with those who not only need this revolution but want to see that different world, that can bring so much hope alive on a day which so demands it. International Women's Day. What a way to start off phase 2 of this national Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour. I'm very excited to see you all there, and I'm very happy to have been able to speak with you here.
Yeah, thanks for speaking with us. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of the people watching got a taste and a real picture of what it is that we're out to do. So with that, you know, see y'all when we get to LA. And let's go forward, people. All right. Okay. So yeah, that was an update from people out in LA. That was from a few days ago, and I'm pretty sure a lot more has happened since then. So I just want to give people a sense of one, like where this match is at. So on the $1,000 match, we have $720 at there right now, and we got to go out and raise $280 more so that we can meet this match tonight. And the total that we're at right now is this one? Yeah. Oh, okay. If we raise the 280, my bad. The total that we'll be at is 9,000. Sorry, my bad. 9,147. That, you know, is something that we should go out and raise right now. You know, think about it. Yeah, think about it. For people to get some more of a sense of what this is, concretely what this is like, it takes about $250 a week to actually sustain people who are on the tour. $250 a week. Think about it, what that would mean to actually have people going out into the world, going onto the campuses, spreading this word. You know, they need to eat. They need to get places. They need to be in cars. This is LA. It's a driving city. You know, so that's something that to think about as well. You know, there's a lot of artists and people of influence who are in that city as well. We have to go out and talk to these people. We got to meet these people. We have to get out to the youth and students here. You know, the school year isn't over yet, so this is something to think about as well. So as we were, you know, as people were getting this update and watching, another statement came in with a $75 donation, so I'm going to read this statement. I'm a service-connected, disabled Vietnam-era veteran, 1969 to 1970. After I was in service for a short time, I began to find out what the U.S. military was really doing in Vietnam. I learned of massacres of women, men, and children repeatedly, of rape, of massive bombing of civilians, and much more. I ended up refusing to do any of this from within the military, and more of us did. There were consequences, but more important were the horrific consequences for the Vietnamese from this genocidal war. I've become convinced more than ever that a revolution led by Bob Avakian and the new communism he has developed is the only way to end the many crimes of this imperialist system. Enough! America's greatness, the U.S. flag, a bastion of democracy, it's all junk. We can't fall for this disgusting American chauvinism that led me and many more to join the U.S. military. Another world is possible. The revolution tour you've heard about tonight is the key for spreading the word about this revolution and Bob Avakian's leadership, and to organize people into this revolution. This tour is the key for unleashing a new generation to become an essential force in this revolution, aimed to emancipate all humanity. I am donating $75 as a disabled vet, and I call on everyone who has a heart for humanity to donate as if humanity's continued existence depends on it, because it does. So that, that was a powerful statement. And you think about, like, right now, in the very beginning of this year, what happened? Trump, dropping those strikes on Soleimani, the whole country, the whole world being put at a moment where we're thinking, what the hell? Is this going to start, a whole other, like, world war? This shocked the whole world. And this is something that, if you have a fascist in the White House, is something that's going to continue to be a danger for all of humanity. And you also think about, look, so many people, a lot of good people are caught up in thinking that America is the greatest country. And I think that, how he spoke to this, or how they spoke to this, I don't know, was very deep, in speaking to, like, what America actually does. And I think people should think about that. So we want to continue on, actually, before it gets.
Yeah, we're not letting you guys go just yet. We have to reach this $10,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, we can, and we're within striking distance. Okay, 280 until we get to the 9100, something like that, and then we have another 900 to go. And there's some things we actually still really want to share with you too that have to do with how we see about going about this next phase of the tour and really making the breakthroughs that are needed.
Yeah. So what we want to talk about is, look, we mentioned this thing about the web presence. Think about it. If there actually is a flowing new website, a website where people can go and actually get a sense of what the hell are we trying to do? What is this movement for revolution? Who is Bob Avakian? How can they get connected and be a part of this? There's people all over the country who are attracted to this, who've heard about this in a basic way, but don't know how they can get involved, don't know how they can follow this and contribute. And we need more funds to actually grow a sort of website that can actually meet these needs and involve you and other people in making that real. So that's one key element that we want to grow. As we're down there in LA, we've said, we're gonna go to LA and we're not gonna stop till we make a breakthrough. We're not gonna leave till we make a breakthrough. Something that we learned from last year is that we left too early. We left too early. People marched in the streets. People were inspired. People were shocked, seeing revolution. Some people were like, whoa, that looks like the Black Panthers, but there's white people, there's Latino people, there's Asian people, there's men, women, all kinds of people, all together. What is this? LGBT people. This is different. This is new. We're talking about a whole other way that the world can be, and we have to grow this movement in a way that we haven't done before, which is a part of why the web presence is so important. We've been talking amongst ourselves and actually speaking about, like, look, we're on YouTube now, but that's not sufficient. We need a YouTube channel. We need a way that people can hear from the revolution, hear, from Bob Avakian, putting him out as he is. We need people to be able to tune in and have a way in which they're learning and growing and contributing to a whole movement. There needs to be a way that people can represent. These T-shirts shouldn't just be in the key cities where there's revolutions clubs. The T-shirts should be something that people can get everywhere. Something that people from all over can actually get and connect and be able to represent where they are as this is growing. There's other ideas that we have about, a YouTube channel having a weekly web show, a way in which people can not only get connected and learn more, but actually be actively following and growing a movement that's not just wherever we are in the real world, but online, and growing that impact, growing that voice. We've talked about having some agitational videos, having videos where you can actually get connected to the different clubs in different cities. All this is new, all this is experimental, but it can't be done without funds. This needs equipment. This needs people who are going to be able to throw in on editing and all this kinds of stuff. So if that's you, if you have those skills, or if you know somebody who can do that, send this video to them, and tell them about this movement for revolution. And you know, if you want to say some more, say some.
No, I just
Yeah.
you know, we're not gonna pan the camera around, but like really, our setup here is not adequate for what we're setting out to do. Okay, we're live streaming on a phone scotch tape to a roll of scotch tape. Okay, we got our tripod is a stack of old books. Okay, we got a support team that we keep in the stairwell, locked behind a door. Okay, look, we need to actually raise the funds that are needed to get a actual center in LA that can not only facilitate the ongoing organizing work, but that can actually have the facilities that are required to do these kinds of live streams and shows in a way that, you know, can actually engage people and isn't a whole, hat trick, that we, where we pull a rabbit out of a hat. And this is why we need the 10,000 to get started, but it's going to require, 50,000 by the end of the March, so that when we launch this new website and YouTube channel, it's not just a blip. Okay, it's got to actually be something that hits and that people can actually get connected with and can come to find out. Okay, so that it's not just, look, we throw up YouTube videos that are great, some of the greatest content that you can find out there, if you can find it. So this has to change, okay? This is why we actually need to start raising the funds that are needed to act in a way that's commensurate with what we are talking about, which is the state of and the future of humanity, and what we have to fight our way out of this nightmare that we find ourselves in, and forward to a brighter future for the world. And we can do this because we have this leadership that's never existed before, and people don't even have a way to find out about it. We need to change that. Okay, you need to be part of changing that. Okay, we're raising the funds to change that tonight. And, I don't know, we're going to get an update very soon about where we're at, but you're not going anywhere until we hit that $10,000. So go ahead and donate. Venmo at Revolution Tour, PayPal on revcom.us, call 646-717-7161, or email us at getorganizedforrevolutiontour@gmail.com. And email us there too, if you're going to donate tonight, if you're going to make a pledge to raise funds in the coming days and weeks and bring people together to learn about and raise the funds for this Revolution Tour, and to volunteer, because we are forming national web team to make these changes that are needed, and we're going to be forming a national fundraising team because we need to have these efforts to raise the funds not just happen every once in a while on a live stream. And this is the last thing I'll say, and turn it back over to Luan. We're gonna be on air again next Wednesday night. Okay, so stay tuned to revcom.us for further details, because we're gonna be updating you. We're gonna be continuing to raise the needed funds, and we're gonna be having send-off parties in the coming 10 days in different cities around the country. And you can go to revcom.us to get connected up and to be part of these send-off parties. If you're in a city or a town or a place, wherever you are, where there isn't a send-off party happening because there aren't organized forces that are being sent to the tour, you can have a dinner party too, to raise the funds, to bring people together and to learn about and be part of this revolution in any and every way.
Yeah, so we just got a quick update on where the $1,000 matching donation is at. Right now, we've raised $795 of that. So if people want to throw in more so we can reach that tonight.
205 left for the 1,000.
Yeah, 205 left. And I think that it would be good to kind of talk about, there was like what people saw in the video about International Women's Day and how that was actually put out there. And as well as something that people were mentioning is, look, we have been down there and people are asking, where are you people? I think it'd be good if we kind of spoke to some of that, and what that would mean to actually have, people come back, to LA. If you have some thoughts.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's not going to happen if we're not all part of raising the funds that are needed to do that. So that's one thing, because really can't stress enough the difference. Again, what you're saying. Where are those people? We began something that really bodes with a lot of potential for the future in LA last year, and we're going back to LA, and we're not going to walk away from this, okay? And we didn't walk away, just to be clear, okay? We were part of spreading this revolution throughout the country. And then I do just want to say, we're not doing this revolution in a vacuum somewhere off to the side of the world and what's going on. You know, we've already talked some about how, you know, we make plans, and then, you know, this system does what it does to people constantly, and forces people to run up against it and confront the nature of it, but not see the way through it. And we have this revolution has to be acting in relationship to that, and people need to, you know, have a way that they can be part of it. But one of the things that happened in the last few months is that there's a major battle going on throughout society over whether we're going to live under a Fourth Reich, okay, under a fascist America headed by the Trump-Pence regime, okay? And this was not something that we could just go on doing whatever our plans were as this bubbled over with, you know, starting in some ways with El Paso massacre of these Latino people by this white supremacist thug inspired by Trump, which was not just an isolated incident.
That's true.
Okay, some folks in this room were part of going down to Richmond, Virginia a month ago, where 22,000 armed white supremacists were marching in the streets with guns saying we will not obey laws that get passed that restrict us. And they were not gun rights activists, okay? If you want to go and watch the videos, watch on revcom.us, the report back from the folks in the revolution, including Luan, who went down to Richmond, Virginia to confront these white supremacist thugs. You can see what they were really about. These were not gun rights, Second Amendment people. These were armed, militant white supremacists who will tell you that their leader was Donald Trump. And they're not going to go away whatever happens in an election in November, okay? And what they're part of trying to fight to bring into being is very ugly and very dangerous for humanity, in a system that is already a nightmare for humanity. And we cannot allow ourselves to be confined into the choices that this system lays out, which will foreclose the future of humanity. We have to bring forward this other way that we have, okay? And so this is what people need, okay? But, you know, I was just bringing up that this is the world that we're acting on, living in. And we took a lot of responsibility to struggle with all our heart and all our minds with people to act on a window that opened up when there was, you know, this roiling crisis, you know, bubbling up, including the impeachment, where there was a moment and an opportunity where if people moved in huge numbers, they could have actually forced a situation where the people at the top who were fighting each other could have felt compelled to move to remove this Trump-Pence fascist regime and actually prevent the consolidation of fascism. But we see where that went. People did not come out in the way that they needed to. And these fascists won a big victory with the acquittal of Trump. And they've been on a tear and a rampage ever since. And we don't know where all of that's going to go. And so we have to be tense to this, okay? We have to be acting in relationship to the developments in the world. And I mention this because one of the things that we are also very clear on, and is even short of revolution, to mobilize the people that are needed to deal with the urgent threat facing humanity is going to be much more difficult if there is not a growing force of people coming from the perspective that not only is another world possible, but we have the leadership and the science to make that world real and to get rid of the system that has given rise to the crisis that we're in now. And that, if that force became stronger, not only would that bode well for the possibilities of revolution, but even right now could give inspiration and be a challenge to those who are not coming from revolution but who do not want to see a fascist world to move in a way that is commensurate with the urgent threat facing humanity. So we have to break through very quickly to begin to organize these forces to change the whole terrain. And we have another update that just came in on where we're at in the $1,000 matching donation. And we are at 945 out of 1,000, okay? Meaning we are $55. That's right. We have, yeah.
Go, go, go.
We have $55 to go to meet that challenge, okay? And that 945, if we get another 55, that doesn't just become 1,000, that becomes 2,000, okay? So be part of reaching that 55, and then we got a little more to go after that. Help me out, where were we?
Yeah, so you're talking about this thing about how, a part of what we're doing, how we're looking at the situation is actually building and growing a movement for revolution, building and growing, putting this leader on the map could actually strengthen, even the ability for people to drive out this fascist regime. And I just want to say, like, this is, one, I can say for myself, this is so true, but like even looking at the situation, the very same things that people are running up against and have been running up against and bringing out the Out Now movement, which we have been throwing into in the past, few months, are the very same things that we were going up against in the tour. Mm-hmm. Like the American chauvinism, the individualism, thinking like whether it's, just the innocent, like if I don't look at it, then it's not my problem, or whether it's just straight up, I'm not going to look at it, and I'm just going to be about me. These are things that we have to change, we have to go up against and directly challenge. And part of actually even, the hopelessness that we've been talking about, we've been mentioning it and putting that out there, is because people don't see another way. This isn't seen as a viable alternative that's out there in the world, and that's what we have to go out to change, to put that on the map, to put that out to people, and it's a part of what you can be a part of doing. We're talking about going to LA, not leaving until we make a breakthrough. Think about it. If that actually becomes a pole, a beacon planted in society where people say, look, that's where the revolution is growing. If people see that and are relating to that, that could actually change the whole equation, of what even that we can see possible. This is a quick note, I guess that a message that came in, and I would say to this person who wrote this message, I'm gonna read it. Email us and get to work on it. So the message that they send is, if you all need anybody to edit videos or make posters, I can help. Message us, get on it. There's the website itself, too. There's the website itself too. If you go onto it right now, you can read and keep up with what's actually happening in this movement for revolution and overall in the world, and that can give orientation on how to act, how to move as well. So as you're following this tour, get organized, get out there, get into the world, and become a follower of Avakian, because that's what we really need, in this world today. Did we do this update already? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so we still need to raise the funds. I just want to remind people, or actually go back to even concretely what some of this means. To sustain or actually support a tour member, for a week, that's about $250 dollars. And we're calling on people, look, you should become a monthly sustainer. There was a student earlier who donated $5, and she's going to be donating $5 a month. That's something that you can do as well, or go larger. If you can donate $20 or $100 a month, that could make a difference. Think about what this means, having these people on the road. It's not just myself and Noche. There's other people, and there's people who could be. We are and there's other people who could actually be traveling. Right now we have some folks in the audience who learned about this revolution very recently. Who came to New York, who've been on the road with us here, and have been while we're in the interim. Or,
sure.
Yeah, in the middle of going to LA, and I've been throwing in and learning about this revolution. Yeah. Think about what that could mean, actually having people coming from other places, going to LA, running with the tour for a week, or running with the tour, at the Revolution School, where they can learn more about this leadership and where they can go out into the world and put this impact in society. That could make a difference, make a deep difference, giving people a way that they're understanding more about this revolution and actually how they can act together as well. We should be thinking about ourselves as all people who are supporting this tour, but also people who are making this tour real. When you put in that contribution, when you put in those $5, that's you being a part of the revolution. You know, think about it like that, because that is what it is. You're a part of making this possible, and this is something that we're all fighting to grow together.
Think about it like that, because it is like that. Okay, these kinds of networks of people who are sustaining and supporting the tour are also networks of people making revolution. Okay, and if you think about what we're aiming for in terms of getting to a situation where millions can go all out to bring this system down as soon as possible, there's going to be a whole kind of fight that's going to need to be waged. And people, look, Bob Avakian talks about this a lot. People in this world sacrifice, including their lives, for all kinds of nonsense. All right? And if we're going to have a chance to really get to an emancipatory future, people are going to have to sacrifice to make a revolution to get rid of this system. And it can't just be, sacrifices in the name of courage. We have to win, and we have a way to win now because of the work that he's done. But people are going to have to learn how to sacrifice for something more than just themselves. And this is part of what you're training people to do when you're going to them to raise the funds that are needed to sustain the people who are doing the work of the Revolution Tour, who are joining the revolution. Okay, and I want people to think about this seriously. All right, we have this matching grant that we need. $55, but we needed to get another 900 or 800, whatever it is, tonight to reach that 10,000 goal. And think about really, what is going to be required to sacrifice and what you can sacrifice now to be part of making this happen. Call up your friends, okay? Tell all those people who are donating right now millions and millions of dollars to all these election campaigns, including most of which will go nowhere. And even those that will stay in these races will be part of ultimately keeping things going the way they are under this system. And challenge them. What would it mean if there was a force in society that was not playing by the rules of this system and just accepting the way things are? And that there were people who had backing from people who were being wanted a revolution and people who really wanted to see a contending force out there saying a better world is possible and we don't have to accept lesser of evils or one side or another of the oppressive rulers. We don't have to choose between a fascist America or going back to an America that is more, like the one we used to have where, as Bob Avakian has put it, instead of the lies of Trump that make people uncomfortable, they can go back to the lies before Trump that they could be more comfortable with. No, we don't need that. We need to confront reality as it is and change it for humanity. Think about, this is 'tis the season, not for Christmas, but for your taxes. Think about what you're going to do with those checks. Why don't you pledge your tax return to the Revolution Tour, okay? Instead of whatever else you might do. And look, believe me, I know the struggles that people have in their lives to try to just keep going. But we need to not just keep going, okay? We need to go somewhere else. And that's what this revolution provides the opportunity for. And that's what you can be part of making known throughout society and backing up the people. Think about, Luan, myself, but all the other folks who are going to be on this tour. Think about what these people are doing with their lives at a time of so much self-indulgence and individualism and turning inward and burying your head in the sand. There is a force of people, a group of people who are dedicating themselves to this mission of breaking through with real hope for humanity on a scientific foundation. That's what these people are doing. Why would you not want to be part of contributing to see that happen? Okay? Why would you not want to give everything you could to see that be given back in? Okay? Why would you not want to see growing numbers of people actually raise their sights and debate big questions of how the world could be fundamentally different now, not how we can just get by November without the worst happening? Okay, think about that and give what you would give to see that happen. And then, mentioned, write us, email us to figure out how you can volunteer. One of the ways is to be part of national fundraising team that is working on this. Because this is, again, not a one-shot deal. We're making a revolution, folks. And we're going to actually, all of us who make it through the revolution are going to have to go and build a new society and continue to figure out how we work together to continue to make the transformations that are needed. And people in all kinds of ways being part of the logistical support networks, providing food, housing, raising the necessary funds, providing the necessary equipment to carry out the struggle now and in the future. All of that is going to be needed, not just once a week on live streams like this, but in an ongoing way as part of a movement for revolution, where the organized forces that are able to be out there on the front lines representing and struggling, representing the masses of people and the leadership we have, are backed up and supported by many times their number of networks of people who are part of that same revolution and giving the kind of support and backing that's needed for the people to be able to carry out that kind of work. So write us at getorganizedforrevolutiontour@gmail.com and mention that you want to be part of fundraising efforts. Write us with your ideas of how we can go about doing this, different ways. And you know, you heard in the interview with folks in LA of a construction worker who was like, well, I can cook. And boy, some of these people can eat. So that's a big need. And many more people can be contributing to. We got an update?
Yeah, we got an update. So we met the second match, so we should clap that up. And our new total is 10,506.
Yeah. So Luan, does that mean that we met our $10,000 goal?
So we met our goal for tonight, and we went over.
Yeah. So we met our goal, but that doesn't mean you now. Oh, now I can stop. Again, this is to get us started. Okay, this is urgently needed to get people down to LA, to get the seed money to start us off. But we have to go forward from here to raise much more. Again, for all think about the web presence. This is something very new for the revolution. Okay,
Yeah.
it's kind of incredible what we've been able to accomplish without having a web presence in today's world that is actually commensurate with what's needed and what we're doing. That has to change, though, because it is getting in the way of the hope that we are inspiring in people getting realized. That's going to take big funds, okay? That's going to take you, all right, reaching out to people and involving them in this, okay? So this is going to go forward from here to raise $50,000 by the end of March, all right? Again, next Wednesday. Just to be clear, some of the send-off parties are not going to be Wednesday. They're going to, Chicago is doing one on the 29th, I believe. LA is not doing a send-off party, but they're going to welcome us, and we're going to. But next week, write us with thoughts and plans that you want to make to bring people together to raise funds and let them know about the work of the tour. Okay, this is part of the movement that we need to get going. If you've sent in a message and we didn't have a chance to read it tonight, I do want to say it's not because we don't like this or that message. It's because we haven't had the time to be able to get to everything. But other people have been sending in messages and they're very greatly appreciated. We have another update coming in. Why don't we go to this update before I keep going on? That's interesting. You want me to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
It can be a little confusing.
It's a little confusing.
Mm-hmm. So, couple of updates actually, quite exciting. One is we have someone who gave $100 tonight who has given another $100 and said, in giving this, BA is the only way, and because of the quality of his understanding. Thank you. And someone who gave, someone gave $500 with the note. This is for the YouTube channel and enabling millions to find the revolution, which can't happen soon enough. And Luan was telling you about the 10,506 that we've raised tonight. But some of the money that people are wanting to donate are in the form of pledges. You heard a statement earlier of someone who's going to give another 1,000 in the coming 10 days. with all the pledges that we got when they come through, all the pledges that we got tonight on this live stream, when they all come through, it will mean that the total that was raised through the work today was $14,656. So look, we're gonna start winding to a conclusion. We've told you about the needs for fundraising. I want to take the last few seconds we might have together to maybe ask you, Luan, and reflect some about how we see what we're doing and the hope we have for the coming year. Why don't you share with people what you might be thinking about?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
So,
that's why I saved it for last, to get you.
Okay. So, I mean, well, there's a lot that's already been going on this year, and we have no idea, where this could go. But you imagine, we're just starting in March, and the whole year is still there. And you think about, like, actually going in, all kinds of different people working on this problem together. This is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge, but it's also going to be, a really powerful and impactful thing. And I think that I don't really know all of what's in store, but, I can say that, I'm ready to actually throw in and contribute all that I can to be a part of, how it is that we can grow this. And I think that, you think about the impact, of what already has come in. And you think about the potential that could actually be made if we do make a breakthrough and actually growing this movement, growing it in a way where it's just the ones and twos, but where there's more and more people who are seeing this, who are wanting to relate to it, who are growing it and strengthening it. You think about if this website or the web presence actually gets on a different level, the channel itself being something that's people are looking to, already there's different statements and things that people are writing into the website that a lot of people don't see, that have a lot of heart to them, about looking at the world, like going from, and coming out of the understanding that Avakian is actually bringing forward with the new communism, wrestling with that new communism, but actually analyzing the world. I want to speak to, like, even in brief, I don't want to say everything about it, but like, there's a piece that somebody wrote about the movie Queen and Slim, and the piece that they wrote had so much heart in it. People should check it out. It's on revcom.us. You can look at it, look for it in the search bar or whatever. But like this world, has so much potential, that could be brought out. There's so much heart, in people, but gets stifled over and over and over and over again, and you think about if this actually becomes something that's put on the map where people can see this as a real shot, as a real hope, that it is, what that can mean, for future generations, what that can mean for people, in the long run. And I think that that's something that, I have barely even begun to scratch the surface of thinking about what all that can mean. But it's something that I want to think about and get into together with more people. That's it. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Well, since you asked, no. I share a lot of your dreams and aspirations, and I would say, I hope we've made it clear how excited we are to begin this next phase of the tour, and to be connecting up with the other folks who are going to be part of this, this cohort of people who are going to be like a spear tip to break open the pathway for many more people to get in on this. And in the spirit of some of what you were saying on the one, I know I also encourage people to go to revcom.us, check that out, and also read these letters that come in from prisoners. When you think about people who this system counts for nothing, who can count for a great deal by contributing what they have to the cause of emancipating humanity. And one of the letters is actually titled "What's Worth Living and Dying For," and it's very moving. Again, I also won't exhaust it here, but go read those letters and see what it is for these prisoners to actually encounter this revolution and the writings of Bob Avakian and the hellholes of incarceration in the country that has the largest networks of dungeons and prisons and torture chambers that is the system of mass incarceration in this country. Okay, but it's also what we're fighting for here is not just for the people in this society, in this country. You know, when you think about launching the tour on International Women's Day, and you think about the women all over the world who live in a planet where their humanity is suffocated because of being born female, young girls sold into sexual slavery, women having acid thrown on their face, not being able to choose who and how to love, for women and also for people who are different. This is a world that is not fit for human beings, but it could be. And there are plenty of human beings with the potential to transform the whole world. And people have fought heroically and courageously. We've even seen some of that recently. Youth in Europe taking to the streets around the environment and the destruction of the planet. People have risen up in country after country to drive out hated regimes and heads of states. People have risen up in various places throughout the world, and they have not been able to break through. Okay? And what we have here, and what we are fighting to break through on here, is to not only spring into being right here in the belly of the beast, a movement for revolution led by Bob Avakian, but to put that scientifically grounded hope for humanity out into the whole world, so that everywhere that people are rising up, lifting their heads, everywhere people are dreaming and hoping for a way out of this oppression, everywhere people need a way out, they can encounter this leadership and what this means. Because this is, again, not just for us here. This is based on decades of work that Avakian has been doing, looking at the struggles of people all over the world, and looking at things that aren't just concerned with the struggle, that tell us a lot about how human beings have to live under this system and how they could live. And this is a whole understanding that we can be part of taking up, to not just struggle and make revolution here, but to make a great contribution to people everywhere throughout the world, lifting up their heads and fighting to make the same kind of revolution everywhere, so that we can get to a planet where this is no more anywhere, and where we have a shot to actually save the planet from the environmental catastrophe and destruction that this system is letting loose on people all over the world. And we have a question. Okay, I'm going to get to this. We have a question that just came in, but I do just want to say, you know, again, what we're doing with this National Revolution Tour, okay, has big stakes for where things go right here in this country, but breaking through, okay, even in beginning ways over the course of this next few months, can give hope not to just people here, but all over the world. Okay, and this is what we, you know, in the Revolution Club, we have these 6 points of attention, and number one is we base ourselves on and strive to represent the highest interests of humanity. Okay, not just Americans. Okay, not just people here, not just one group of people, but all people who need to get free from this nightmare, and all of humanity ultimately. This question is, what is this question?
Yeah, so we just got a question from online. It says, Wyoming listening. How can a state like Wyoming be involved?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, one, get into the world. You know, I do want to say, like, a big way that you can get involved now is, you know, get into Avakian. You know, the film is online. You know, watch this, like, either watch it tomorrow, watch it tonight, you know, but get out into the world. There's these points of attention that speak to the kind of world that we're fighting for. There's the 526, a pamphlet that we came up with last year through the work of the tour. I'm looking around to see if someone could actually bring it up. But this is something that you can take up and be representing for the revolution wherever you are. You can print it off of revcom.us. That's the national connection. Go there, you know, get that pamphlet, print it out, go out to your friends, talk to them, bring people together. And a big way that you can actually be working together on this revolution too is raising the funds with other people, raising the funds and putting this out into the world. And try to do this not just by yourself, but with others. You know, it makes a difference when you're with others, when you're spreading this with others. This is how we can grow, and this is how we can bring others to be a part of this strongly. And look, talk about this with your friends. Talk about this with your friends. Talk about it with people that you know. We have one that's in Spanish, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So we have it in Spanish and English. I'm trying to see if I can get a copy. Here. It looks like this. And this is on the website. You can look it up. It says 526, so if you look it up, type in 526 and you can find it. On the inside, it has the 5 stops, things that we've been talking about, what it is that this system does to people, things that can't be reformed. In the middle, it has these 2 choices that I mentioned earlier that Bob Avakian puts boldly. One, either live with all this and condemn future generations to the same or worse if they have a future at all, or make revolution. And on the side, this side, it has the points of attention that Noche was mentioning. It's in Spanish, so if you can read it, you can read it. But if you can't, it's also in English online. But get this, get copies of this, take it to different neighborhoods. You can spread this on your own, but write into the website. Write in what are your experiences. Write in your questions and be a part of working on this collectively.
Yeah, right on. I do want to say hi, Wyoming.
Yeah.
And I really, echo what she said. But also, please write to us and let us know what it's like out there, okay? Because one of the things is that this National Revolution Tour it needs to be corresponding with people who are in other areas where they can't connect up, and working together on how do you actually tackle the problems of the revolution in wherever you happen to be in. Actually, this 526 thing, we didn't have a chance, and we won't have a chance to walk through the whole experience, but it actually came out of some of the early experience in the tour of trying to figure out how do we let people who are new to the revolution and who are in places where there is an organization, how do they get their hands on some key principles that they can go out and talk to other people with and involve them in the revolution and build organization on that basis. So get, this 526, this gives you some basic principles and guidelines. Why we need a revolution and what we're going to work on ending, why this system can't be reformed, the 2 choices that Avakian puts to everybody, and the 6 points of attention that are the principles that we live by and fight for, that represent not just how we live today, although it does represent that, but it also represents the kind of world we're fighting for, okay? And how we fight for it, okay? You remember that clip we played at the earlier part of this live stream. He ends that section with, "This is not a revolution for revenge," okay? And this is a hallmark of the new communism, that we're not just doing whatever it takes to take down our enemy. We're fighting in ways that are consistent with the world we're fighting to bring into being, to get all of humanity free. So write to us, please, because I would love to hear about what Wyoming is like. Not just because I'm curious about the state, but what are the ways in which people can be brought together and act on these principles together, and how you can be part of having an impact, not just there for Wyoming, but be part of impacting all of society by working together. Because everything we're doing everywhere, whether you're in a state like Wyoming, which I know very little about, just to be honest, I'd love to learn, whether you're in a big city like the Rotten Apple of New York City, or whether you're in LA or Boston, wherever, we're all part of a national movement for revolution with the whole world in mind and at heart. So, I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah.
So, I think with that, this might be a good place to end. I want to thank everyone again who's tuned in. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, we made important beginnings tonight on kickstarting this next phase of the Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour. I want to thank all the people who came to the place that we have here to watch or to help staff all the various operations of making this live stream happen and being able to stay up to date on what's going on, so you at home know what's going on, and what you're doing is not just contributing to us having an impact, but by donating and the messages that were sent in, we're part of the impact that's being had and affecting other people and turning other people's faces towards revolution and towards the possibility of a different world. So with so I want to express my appreciation for everybody, not just for myself, but for the 7 billion people on the planet who are counting on us, all of us, those of us watching and those of us here, to do what we have set out to do.
Yeah, so it was good actually bringing this out with you all. And I just want to say, look, we got a lot of work to do, and let's get organized for an actual revolution.